Good evening. Welcome to Real to Real. I'm Sean Hughescamp.
And I'm Monsignor Charles Minor. The Catholic Family Life Bureaus in our various dioceses has been very helpful to us in the recent years in getting us to distinguish for our marrying couples the difference between a wedding and a marriage. And with all that instruction and all that preparation, we still have to face the reality of divorce in our lives.
That's true. And when a marriage does fail, what is a Catholic to do? Well, our two guests tonight will discuss their experiences firsthand on the separated and divorced Catholic and their role in the Church today.
Our feature tonight will take us behind the scenes with the Muppets. In our short segments, we'll tell you about the new condensed version of the Bible from Reader's Digest and what people are saying about it.
Every American probably knows somebody, either in their family or among their friends, who has been divorced or separated from their spouse. Divorced people encounter special problems, but the Catholic who is divorced encounters another problem, a confrontation with their faith. Tonight, we have two women who are active in the Family Life Bureau working with divorced and separated Catholics to discuss the dilemma of divorced Catholics today. They are Audrey Welsh, mother of four, and successful Catholic single for 10 years, co-founder of the Becomers, a positive Christian single group in Bucks County, and Dolores Rogers, mother of three, newly divorced, and director of counseling at Newman College. Audrey, I'd like to begin with you. You hear so many people describe divorce in terms of a grieving process. What are some of the emotional stages that a newly divorced person goes through? Can you give us an idea about that?
Yes, Sean, there are 5 different stages that a person goes through. The first one is denial. Most of the time when a person first becomes separated, they don't want anyone to know that they are separated, and thus many people don't know until much later. The second stage then is anger. At that point, they hate the person that is doing these things to them, and they have a lot of anger and bitterness. Many times it comes to the point where people don't even want to listen to the person because they have so much anger at that time. The third stage is bargaining. In the bargaining stage, they go back usually to the spouse that they are divorcing, and at that point try to bargain with them to come back. If it is a divorce situation, it can be very, very dangerous, because what happens is many times back in the marriage, they bargained for this and that, and they do the same thing when it comes time for divorce. And most of the time they find out that bargaining does not help. And eventually they come into depression. And depression can last a long time. I find that many times if a person has not sought counseling up until that point, when they hit the depression stage, they really should go and seek some professional help. And hopefully, finally, after they go through the depression stage, they are able to come to the point of saying, yes, I have experienced a divorce. I cannot change it, and I must go on. And only after that part will they be able to start accepting what has happened and then go on and become a more productive single person.
Are there any reasons why we have to wait till the accomplished fact takes place? For instance, in a pastoral experience I would have, so few people have ever come to me, or I guess to any of my fellow priests, and say, we are in trouble. We don't get a hold of it until it's accomplished. Is this a default somewhere, or why is the reason we cannot get in beforehand?
I think it's quite normal for a person to have any kind of emotional problem, and certainly divorce is one, not to really admit it or want to seek counseling. I think that's a fault in society in general. We can be physically sick and go to a doctor, but we are adults, we can handle our emotions. But I think secondly, one of the kinds of things that as pastors can be accomplished is a more personal knowledge of the members of the family. And I'm sure that the church is reflecting some of the society. We become an impersonal society. I can recall growing up in a neighborhood where everyone knew each other and where we went to our pastor. Today, we grow up in neighborhoods and don't know each other. And naturally, the pastor is not a support counselor type. One of the positive things I see also happening are certainly the family life services for separated and divorced, but also in terms of marriages that are still functioning, the rise of the encounter movement. In other words, a preventive type of counseling.
You mentioned the Family Life Bureau programs. What can the workshops and the seminars offer to the newly divorced or even the person who has been divorced for several years and is searching?
I find a very lot going to the workshops can give them hope, because 99% of the time, any workshop that they attend are people who have a lot of knowledge on a specific subject. So as a result, they are able to get hope and hopefully go away from there and at least have something to hang on to for a while. There are also different groups in different churches, and people need that support.
What is the separated and divorced workshop picture in the Archdiocese of Philadelphia? How many groups are there?
I understand there are just 6 throughout the Archdiocese, which amazes me because of such a large Archdiocese that we do have. And there is such a large need. I feel they are doing a lot, but at the same time there is still a long way that we can go. We need more things like this.
I think that one of the things with all the emotional crises they go through, undercutting it all would be the financial, economic problem you must experience in a divorce and separation.
I find it is a critical issue, not only for the woman, but also for the man. And I think it is the financial that is kind of the last straw on the camel's back. You have the emotional grieving process you're going through, and what makes it even worse is if you have children. And if you are the custodial parent, you have to deal with their grieving process, their emotional problems. So finance is the last straw with everything else that is going on, my spiritual, my emotional, my physical draining from maybe being a single parent. And then not enough money really is the last straw.
Audrey, you hear a lot about guilt, and you hear Catholics who are divorced saying, I can't go to church, I'm excommunicated, I can't receive the sacraments. What about all of this?
Yes, guilt does play, if a person lets it, a big part in separation and divorce. They will go along saying, I should have done this, I should have done that, if only, if only. Many times Catholics think that they cannot receive the sacraments when they are separated and divorced.
But that's not true.
No, it's not.
No, it's only if they are separated, divorced, and remarried without appropriate annulment of the prior marriage. Mm-hmm. But many of them do, as you say, stay away from the sacraments. And this is the time they really should be spiritually strengthened by the sacraments, more than ever. And they should move toward the sacraments. It's a simple procedure of asking for it outright to somebody.
Yes, and I also find that it's not only just with Catholics that have a problem with the guilt in their church, but it is with many other religions where people feel that they are ostracized by their church, and they feel that they are not accepted by the people in the church.
Well, Dolores, what would you say then are the major pitfalls that somebody newly divorced could fall into?
I think among the major ones is entering a relationship before you have had a chance to really look at yourself, get integrated, and find out what really you want out of life. Major one, it's out of the frying pan into the fire. Secondly, using drugs, alcohol as a support, which short-term may work, long-term can be disastrous. Instead of looking for support people. Now, as we have all spoken about, certainly the family life separated and divorced, single parenting, parents without partners, are legitimate groups that act as support. But then maybe building up support people, either at your work or friends, whatever. And I think a major one when separated, divorced persons have children is using your children as pawns in a divorce, and absolutely disastrous. Not only for the spouses, but also for the psychological development and emotional development of the children. So they would be among the 3 that I would consider major ones. There are all kinds of other ones, but they're the major.
It would seem that the remarried divorce rate is even higher than first marriages. I understand it's 4 out of 6 remarriages end in divorce as well.
Yes, and I think that's where I really believe persons do really look at themselves and get counseling help before jumping in again.
Thank you, Dolores, and thank you, Audrey. Divorce is on the rise in America. It's threatening 1 out of every 2 marriages. So if someone out there is interested in seeking counseling or is divorced or separated and wants some support, contact your Family Life Bureau in any of your dioceses.
Stay tuned for the story on the new Bible from Reader's Digest and reactions to it from the person in the street.
In the beginning was the Word, but some felt the Word was too long. So 7 years ago, editors here at Reader's Digest in Pleasantville, New York, decided to take on the tremendous task of condensing the Bible. Reader's Digest, which has been shrinking works of literature for 32 years, assigned project editor John E. Walsh a crew of 7 editors and a noted scripture scholar from Princeton Theological Seminary. The Reader's Digest Bible, an 816-page volume that is 40% shorter than the Revised Standard Version on which it is based, has now been released to the nation's bookstores. Walsh said the principal motivation to shorten the good book stemmed from a perceived paradox that while the Bible is the all-time best-selling book, it is also one of the least read in its entirety.
And why? Very simply because it can bring to the Bible, the essential Bible, the heart of the Bible, millions, literally millions of people who want to read the Bible cover to cover, who want to do it, who have always meant to do it, but who have been daunted, who are prevented by the Bible, by 2 things. The Bible's great length. Every Bible runs about 850,000 words. Now that's a lot of words. And the Bible's complexity. Everyone will admit that the Bible is not an easy book to read.
Walsh, a Catholic, had mixed feelings about working on the condensed version.
I was appalled. I was filled with consternation. I was sure it shouldn't be done. I was sure it couldn't be done.
But Walsh soon became convinced that there was a need for a condensed Bible and set out to study and work on the book, which in the end would come to drop 50% of the Old Testament and 25% of the New Testament.
The condensed Bible is not intended for study. It's not a study Bible. It is intended to allow a reader, the average man and woman, who doesn't have special training, doesn't have perhaps the time to spend on the full original, which, as I said before, is over 800,000 words. It is to be read through from cover to cover in a flowing, easy manner, with the ability to understand what is being read as you read. It's not a study Bible. It would not be used, I certainly am sure that it would not be used in the liturgy, so I do not think it would be used in church.
The Reader's Digest Bible has only been out a short while, yet it's already met with controversy. Reverend Neil McElhaney, past president of the Catholic Biblical Association of America, cites its advantages and disadvantages.
The book has some value, considerable value, in what it intends to do, and should largely be judged in that basis. That is, it intends to be a book for beginners, for the general reader, and it does give a certain amount of information and familiarity with the text if one reads it, and so on. But it is not a replacement for the full Bible, as the editors themselves say, and it cannot be used in any extent in biblical study.
In this 80s generation, geared to fast food and fast cars, it's yet to be seen whether a fast-reading Bible will find acceptance in American lives, and indeed bring new readers to this greatest of all books.
But I think that if they condense the Bible, they won't get the full meaning of what was supposed to have happened in the Bible. And it'll probably be misinterpreted.
Well, I suppose if it's used right, if you used it for children to get the major points across and help teach them that way, I suppose it does have its uses.
It seems kind of silly to condense the Bible. I mean, unless you're just going to want to, run through the whole thing and read it. But if you want to go and look something up, it doesn't make too much sense to look into a condensed version.
I think it's a good idea. You'll have more people read it.
You lose a lot of the meaning because of the parts that you would have to cut out, which would relate to the other parts. So it really would be less effective than it would be to tell the rest of the story.
Well, if you're going to take some of the parts of the Bible out, I mean, it's God's word, I don't think you should tamper with it. You might lose some of the meaning, and some of its semblance to people.
The Word of God can be condensed, and if someone wants to read more about it, they can read the Bible.
Well, I think one of the main things they're cutting out is a lot of the things that make it nice to read, the pretty parts, so to put it. The poetry's, most of it's been cut out. Most of the nicer language has been cut out, most of the nicer parts. I think that's the biggest change. Basically, it still says the same thing.
I think it's all right because a lot more people will read it.
About the Bible, I'm rather conservative. I think I would like to see that it be left pretty much in the form in which we've all been used to it since our childhood.
It might work. It's something to try. If you can get people interested in it, there's no loss in that.
They've done television, movies, books, records, and they've spread a message of happiness around the world. But the Muppets can't even stand on their own 2 feet. In this story, we'll take a behind-the-scenes look at the people behind Kermit, Miss Piggy, and all the other Muppets.
Hold it, wait. Hold it. Oh, no. There is somebody underneath me. No, I mean it. Kermit! Hurry, Kermit! Kermit, what? Don't look now. Yeah. Don't look, but there is somebody underneath me. What? Don't look! Oh, you know what? There's somebody underneath you, too. What? You know what? He's got a beard.
Well, of course, Father. Of course.
I started because I wanted to work on television. I was just graduating from high school, and I heard of this television station that was looking for a puppeteer. So I made some puppets, and I got on the show. And it was kind of that simple. And then I stayed doing local television in Washington, D.C. for the next 8 years.
2 decades ago, Jim Henson and his Muppets moved to New York City, started the Muppet Show, and took the world by surprise.
We've always had the headquarters of our company here in New York, and for the last 20 years or so. And so in the lower floors, we have part of our building shop, particularly the special mechanical effect that department. And those guys are doing incredible things these days with radio control and some mechanical advances that are just, they're just staggering to me. We have a marvelous group of people who have been working with me, with the Muppets, for a number of years. And so much of what we do is really, it's a team effort. It's not, it just doesn't come out of me, but it, in many ways I just feel like the person is sort of, pointing this whole group and sort of moving them along. But I don't feel particularly personally responsible for an awful lot of the work that we do. It is a group thing.
The professional successes encountered by Henson and his Muppeteers have served as catalyst for moving on to new and exciting areas. Their latest venture is one of creating new universes.
Well, I think one of the things that that is most exciting to me is to do something or step into an area that hasn't been done before. And I think that's one of the challenges that I myself enjoy the most. And to do this film, Dark Crystal, it's creating a whole world, and it's like starting all over to design a world and design all the creatures, the plant forms, everything in the world. And that's a wonderful challenge, and it's very exciting.
Now I've got the shard. But what do I do with it? What is it? Am I supposed to take it somewhere? What's so special about this shard? It doesn't look like any... Oh.
To me, puppetry itself, or what we're doing, I don't have any rules. And I know when we started doing the Muppet Show, there are purists in puppetry who say, oh no, but that's not a puppet there, that's a guy in a suit. And I don't care.
Of course, those are puppeteers.
What?
Those are puppeteers. We're puppets.
What?
Sure, we're puppets. They work us.
I can't understand that concept.
His technique and art of puppetry has brought Jim Henson and his associates fame and recognition, winning numerous awards like the prestigious Emmy from the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences in recognition of excellence in television performance and production, the Gabriel, presented by UNDA USA, the National Catholic Association for Broadcasters and Allied Communicators, and the Sword of Loyola, given to individuals who best personify the commitments of St. Ignatius Loyola to courage, dedication, and service.
I think probably it's the interest, the Catholic interest in better television, because they're one of the groups that is working towards, more responsible television and film. And I think that's why there's an interest there.
Jim Henson also has an avid interest in bettering television. From his contributions on Sesame Street, to his new movie, Dark Crystal, to his latest creation of characters for the Fraggle Rock children's program, Henson feels that his work should always be positive in nature.
We know that the work we do is seen by a lot of kids, and so it gives the whole thing a sense of responsibility that you have to listen to, certainly, and be aware of. I think in the first few Muppet shows, we had some people drinking, you know, and in a musical number, can't remember the guest who was downing whiskey sours, you know, which was part of the lyrics of the song, and we did it, and I never thought about it until afterwards, and then, you know, we realized, you know, we really shouldn't be doing that sort of thing, and character smoking, we don't do, you know, none of the puppets smoke anymore. You know, in the very early days, I'd have character smoking because it's wonderful puppetry. You see, it's very funny, and but you know, it's just when you realize that you don't want to portray this, you know, this form of living because it doesn't do anybody any good.
Jim Henson pays special attention to all of his creations, trying to ensure that they are not offensive or harmful to anyone. He designs his characters to be positive and morally upright. And while this practice has proven highly profitable for Henson and his associates, it's also good entertainment for both children and adults. And it's this dedication to produce good television and films that has made Jim Henson the leader in his field.
I've always done what I enjoy doing, and I've always followed the kind of thing that I wanted to do, you know. And because I am doing what I love to do, I work hard, and I put in long hours, and I think, you know, that kind of thing is good. You know, I certainly believe that, you know, you go through life with a sense of integrity, and dealing with, I trust people. I've always believed in that. And if you work with a sense of quality and goodness of purpose, I think all of that is what life is all about.
What a delight to watch Jim Henson and to work on the Muppets. Always a delight to see the Muppets. But how about all the work that has to go on behind that to make it humorous and attractive? Perhaps that says something to us that our own sense of humor needs some working on, that it's always helpful and never hurtful.
And humor is important in all stages of life, particularly as we get older. Next week, our guests will discuss options for the elderly.
And we'll take you inside the recent meeting of the United States Catholic Bishops. In our short segments, we'll show you what it really means to go out to the old ball game. We'll have all this and more for you next week here on Reel to Reel. We hope you can join us. For now, good night and God bless you.
Good night.
Bishop of